You've probably seen these Lego food blocks all over your feed. At first, I wrote them off as just another gimmicky food trend, but after trying them, they genuinely changed how I cook. They reduced my food waste to 0 while also building up a stash of ready-to-go meals. So I decided to create 3 recipes specifically for these molds, and we're gonna find out if they could change your mind as well. Oh, and stick around until the end because I'll show you an easy trick on how to remove some of that excess odor that sticks to the mold. First things first, let's talk about the molds, which I've been using for a while now. I got mine at Costco, but you could easily find other versions on Amazon, and what I think is the most valuable part about them is that you can easily freeze all your leftovers. This is a cube from last week's orzo pasta recipe, and this is from a pad thai I made as well. You can freeze pretty much any of your meals to even sauces and herbs and store them in the freezer, making it a very versatile and inexpensive kitchen tool that'll save you money in the end because nothing is going to waste. Now let's move on to our 3 recipes. First one up, we're making a juicy, tender, slow-cooked short rib. First thing we're gonna do is grab our meat. I have here a 3-pound piece of chuck roast. And I'm also gonna head on over to our oven and set it to broil at high heat. In the meantime, we're gonna prep our meat by hitting it with a ton of salt on each side of it. Trust me, use a lot of kosher salt because it's practically impossible to over-season this big of a cut of meat. Once it's fully seasoned, we're gonna load it onto a sheet tray and then throw it in the top rack of our oven. Typically, you'll sear this in a pot, but this is such a big piece of meat that it's kind of hard. After about 5 to 7 minutes, I'm gonna take it out of the oven and you can see a nice char has developed on it. A huge benefit about using your broiler is that it gives it an even sear across the whole piece of meat, which I think makes it a whole lot easier versus searing it in a pot with oil and it splatters everywhere. I'm gonna now flip this sucker because we're gonna wanna sear the other side as well because it clearly needs a little bit of loving. After another 5 to 7 minutes, this side is also perfectly and beautifully seared. We're gonna set that to the side and head back to our oven, setting it to 275 degrees convection bake. And now we're gonna grab our largest pot. We're gonna set it to medium-high heat, squeeze in 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil, and we're gonna toss in our chopped white onions and leeks, which to chop the white onion, all you have to do is cut the tip off and the root, and then we're gonna split it in half, peeling off the outside layer. I'm then gonna give it vertical cuts along the side of the onion, not cutting it all the way through yet so it holds together, and then I'm just gonna run my knife through it, chopping the onion into a nice dice. To chop our leek, which I've never done before, but it's surprisingly very easy, all you have to do is cut off the root and then split it in half where the whites and the greens meet. I'm then gonna split the whites in half and then run my knife through it, giving us a nice little slicing. I'm also gonna chop some of the green as well until I get an equal amount of leeks to my white onion. I just ran my knife through it and then I chopped it once more since we didn't split this one in half like we did the whites. I'm also gonna throw them in a strainer and then I'm gonna wash these leeks very thoroughly because there's a lot of dirt and gunk that could be trapped in between the leaves, so you really wanna make sure you wash that off. Also, if your grocery store does not have leeks, you could just use celery instead. Back to our pot, we're gonna hit it with a pinch of salt and we're gonna saute this for a few minutes until it's softened and turned translucent. From here, we're gonna now throw in 4 tablespoons of tomato paste as well as 6 cloves of crushed garlic, which to crush, I just used my garlic press and I technically only used 3 cloves, but they were extra large and it basically equals out to 6. I'm gonna bloom our garlic and toast off the acidity of the tomato paste for about 30 seconds to a minute, and then I'm gonna pour in 1 cup of red wine. Do not grab an expensive wine. This is the cheapest cab I could find at the grocery store. Trust me, the cheaper the better. And here's a helpful tip my mom taught me to find out if your wine is cheap or not. A cheap bottle will give out this distinct sound. Oh, and don't let the rest of that wine go to waste either. Pour it into the half-cup measurement molds and then freeze it for whenever you need a little bit of wine for your cooking. I'm gonna give our wine and veggies a nice mixing, and then I'm gonna nuzzle in our seared chuck roast in there as well and try to do it a little bit more gracefully than I did. I'm making a mess, no! After that, we're gonna pour in enough beef stock to cover about 2 to 4 cups, depending the size of your pot. And again, try to be a little bit more graceful than me here. From here, I'm gonna raise the temperature to high to bring up the temperature of that liquid. And then once it starts to do a high simmer, low boil, I'm gonna cut the heat and partially cover it with the lid and throw it in the oven. And make sure the racks of your oven are not too low or you'll awkwardly have to rearrange them. Again, just try to be a little bit more graceful than me. Now we're gonna slowly cook this for anywhere between 2 to 4 hours, possibly more. We wanna make sure we're melting all that collagen in the meat so that way it gives us a super tender, juicy end result. Oh, and I also completely forgot, if you have them, throw a couple chopped carrots in there as well. They'll round out the flavors a little bit more. At the 2-hour mark, we're gonna give it a little peek and it's already looking extremely stunning. Ooh, that looks beautiful. Holy cow, wow. But if you take a closer look with 2 forks, if you try to pull the meat apart, it's still very tough. The collagen has not yet melted away, giving us tender, shreddable beef. So we're gonna put the lid partially back on it again and throw it back in the oven for another 2 hours. About 2.5 hours later, I'm gonna pull it out of the oven and I'm gonna do the same test this time. And as you can see, the meat is much more tender and softer. Cook time will vary for you, but this test is how you'll know when it's done. Now I'm gonna pull our chuck roast out of that pot and set it into a bowl. I'm gonna now shred it in this bowl, and the reason I'm doing it here is because it's easier to see all the chunks in a separate bowl versus shredding it in our pot. Once it's nicely shredded to your liking, I'm gonna now set it to the side and grab our main pot once again. We're gonna now season this to taste with salt. So we're gonna put half a teaspoon at a time and then taste it to see where the salt levels are at. I put around 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and you want it to be a little over seasoned because we still need to put the meat back into the pot. Give it one final mixing, and now this is your braised beef chuck roast. Last thing we have to do now is throw it into our mold and then toss it in the freezer. Once it's frozen, you now have ready to eat braised beef. All you have to do now is just reheat it either in the microwave or on the stovetop. Next, we're making a filling and insanely flavorful butter chicken curry. And if you're liking this video so far and you want to support, I would greatly appreciate it if you could hit the like and subscribe button. First thing we're gonna do is grab our chicken. I have here roughly 2 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken thighs. And we're gonna now grab a bowl and toss in 1 cup of full-fat Greek yogurt, 2 tablespoons of garam masala, 2 teaspoons of turmeric, 2 teaspoons of ground cumin, 2 teaspoons of coriander, and 1 teaspoon of salt. Give it a mixing until all those herbs have mixed with the yogurt and it kind of looks like a paste. From here, I'm gonna throw all of our chicken thighs in there and making sure to mix it by hand, getting it to every nook and cranny of the chicken thighs. Once the thighs have been coated fully with our marinade, we're gonna now set it to the side for 30 minutes. You can marinate this longer, but 30 minutes is around the breaking point for my own patience, so I'm doing 30 minutes. In the meantime, we're gonna now grab a large pot and setting it to medium-high heat, and we're gonna squeeze in about 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil. We're gonna pour in our minced white onion and green bell pepper, which to chop our white onion, you're just gonna cut it the same way as we did the last recipe, giving it a nice chopping. To chop your green onion, all you're gonna do is just chop off the top and then pull out all the seeds, and then we're gonna split it in half and we're gonna flatten it down on our cutting board. I'm gonna run my knife through it, giving us nice long planks, and then I'm gonna turn it to the side and run my knife through it again, giving us a nice little dicing. And don't forget to also pop the root out of the green bell pepper and slice that top bit as well. It's just as good as the rest. Now I'm gonna hit our chopped veggies with a pinch of salt, and I'm also gonna throw in 2 teaspoons of garam masala, 1 teaspoon of ground cumin, 2 teaspoons of ground coriander, and 1 teaspoon of turmeric. Give that a good mixing, and we're gonna now saute our veggies until they've softened and turned translucent. A couple minutes later, once everything is softened, we're gonna throw in 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, as well as 6 cloves of crushed garlic. To crush the garlic, I used my garlic crusher, and I'm gonna mix everything together, making sure the tomato paste is spread out evenly, and we're gonna toast and bloom the garlic and tomato paste for about 30 seconds. After that, we're gonna crack open 1 14-ounce can of crushed tomatoes, and try not to be as scared of opening the can as I was here. Ugh. I'm also gonna throw in 1 tablespoon of sugar and 1 cup of heavy cream, which I don't know why my heavy cream is that thick, but don't worry about it. I'm gonna give this a good mixing, and we're now gonna let this simmer at a low heat for 15 minutes. While that simmers, I'm gonna grab a sheet pan lined with aluminum foil, and I'm gonna lay down our chicken on top of that. I'm also gonna head on over to our oven and set it to broil to high heat, and I'm gonna grab our chicken thighs and throw it on the top rack. I am using the broiler once again because it's gonna give us a beautiful char on our chicken, and it'll let us cook all the pieces all at once. 12 minutes later, I'm gonna pull our chicken out of the oven, and you can see they're nicely seared, having a beautiful caramelized exterior crust to them. I'm gonna check the internal temperature, and it's right at 180. It should carry over to 185, which is perfect for dark meat. And if you need to cook your chicken longer, but you're worried about burning it, just turn off the broiler and then set your oven to 350 degrees. That'll stop it from toasting while still cooking and increasing the internal temperature of the chicken. Now I'm gonna quickly chop this chicken into bite-sized little cubes. Just run your knife through it vertically and then horizontally a couple times to give you perfect little squares. These little burnt edges make for an insane little umami flavor bomb. Oh yeah. Now we're gonna bring our pot back, which admittedly I might have over-reduced accidentally, but that's okay, we're gonna fix that really quickly. I'm gonna first throw in all of our chicken in our pot. I'm gonna give it a good mixing, and I can tell this is a little too thick for a buttered chicken, so I'm gonna pour in 1 cup of chicken stock. I'm gonna bring the heat back up and continue to mix this until everything is nicely warmed up. Once it's hot, we're gonna cut the heat and then throw in 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter. We're gonna continuously mix this until all that butter has melted away and emulsified into our sauce. Now the last thing we have to do now is season it with salt to taste. So I'm gonna put a pinch at a time, mixing it in and then tasting it to see if it needs more or less salt. For me specifically, I had to put 2.5 teaspoons of salt, and in the end, it tasted absolutely insane. Oh my God, that's fire. That's fuego and a half. Holy cow. And this is your butter chicken curry. I'm gonna now pour this into our molds, and I'm gonna put a couple leafy greens on top for decor and throw this in our freezer so it could freeze. Once frozen, you should have a ready to go curry, which all you have to do is reheat it either in the microwave or on the stovetop. Lastly, we're closing things off with a warm, cozy, wrap your taste buds in a blanket tomato soup. First thing we're gonna do is grab a medium-sized saucepan and setting it to medium-high heat, and then we're gonna squeeze in about 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil. We're gonna toss in our minced yellow onion, which to chop, all you're gonna do is cut the tip and the root off, split it in half and peel off that outside layer. Then you're just gonna give it vertical cuts along the side and run your knife through it normally. I use 2 small yellow onions here, but 1 regular sized yellow onion should be more than enough. Back to our pot, I'm gonna hit it with a pinch of salt and saute our onions until translucent. After a couple minutes, our onions have softened. I'm gonna now throw in 2 tablespoons of tomato paste as well as 6 cloves of crushed garlic, which to crush, I just use my garlic crusher. I don't know if I've said this, but I love my garlic crusher, by the way. It is such a handy single-use tool. I'm gonna bloom the garlic and toast off the acidity of the tomato paste for just 30 seconds to a minute, and then once it starts to stick to the bottom of the pan, I'm gonna pour in 1 cup's worth of chicken stock. I'll give it a good little mixing, and then I'm gonna pour in 1 28-ounce can of San Marzano peeled tomatoes. You could try to crush and break down the tomatoes with your spoon, but I'm gonna be blending that pretty soon, so don't worry too much about it. I'll also throw in half a cup of heavy cream, and now I'm gonna mix everything together, making sure everything's fully combined before grabbing my immersion blender. I'm gonna blend this mixture together, making sure to fully combine all the tomatoes and onions and garlics all cohesively together. If you don't have an immersion blender, you can do this in a regular blender or just buy crushed tomatoes instead. Once everything is blended, we're gonna now let this sit at a low simmer and reduce for 15 minutes. 15 minutes later, our tomato soup has reduced just a little bit, but more importantly, the flavors have now concentrated. Now we're gonna season this sucker properly by putting salt in it as well as sugar. I did it slowly, tasting it as I went along the way. But if you want my exact measurements, I ended up putting in 2 teaspoons of salt and 1 tablespoon's worth of sugar. And I gotta say, it tasted phenomenal. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I hit the spot. Now this is your tomato soup, full of flavor and ready to be frozen. I'm gonna pour it into our molds and then I'm gonna throw it into the freezer so it could fully freeze. Once it's frozen, you now have a ready to go meal that could be reheated very easily in the microwave or on a stove. Now let me quickly show you how to remove any leftover odors that are stuck on your silicone molds. After they've been properly cleaned, all you have to do now is throw them in an oven that's set to 350 degrees, bake for 1 hour. After the hour, all the odor should be gone from your mold, but make sure your mold is actually oven safe first before you do this. Last thing you want to do is melt it in your oven. If you want more recipes that work well with these freezer cubes, check out my one pot video here. Thank you so much for watching and please hit the like and subscribe button.